Hi everyone, welcome. What you see down here in my VermiBag Mini is one of these traps that you set up for the flying insects. Right there you can see a flying insect walking on the rim of the container. This thing's been in my system here for probably over a week now. It was just a few days after our last check-in, which was 13 days ago, when the system reached its 300th day in service, that we came in here last to feed them. I'm assuming that, 13 days later they're ready for some food. But I gotta tell you, I don't know if you could see anything in there. I don't. At first I thought perhaps the holes weren't large enough, so I expanded the size of the holes. I mean, I got the apple cider vinegar in there, a little bit of dish soap, meant to, I guess, prevent the liquid from having surface tension so that the little creatures actually fall down into the fluid instead of being able to float on top. But I mean, this system has got a lot of flying insects in it. There was a point not too long ago where it seemed like there were quite a few, and then it seemed like perhaps the numbers had subsided, but it seems like we're right back to having quite a few again. And it's pretty annoying, I must say. I was trying to apply a mixture of the BTI Mosquito Dunks solution, and it just doesn't seem to have been working. I was starting to grow suspicious that perhaps my Mosquito Dunks solution had just been sitting around for too long and that it wasn't really effective anymore. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but either way, I figured we'd come in here and give these little guys a quick feeding, and I figured perhaps another thing we could try to see if we can limit the amount of flying insect intrusion is to maybe go with a nice thick top coating of bedding material this time. So I've got my collection of leaves from outside, and I've also got my prepared bedding. I kind of thought that perhaps the leaves would be a good top coating to sprinkle across the system, and then maybe that plastic that was covering things might be able to just be removed, because it does seem like they're really into hanging out on that plastic and not even so much under it. It's more like just on it, So I think maybe one of the things we'll do is just get rid of that plastic and maybe cover up with something different, perhaps a piece of cardboard or paper or something. I'm not really prepared with whatever it is that's going to replace the plastic covering, but I do feel like replacing the plastic covering with something would probably be a good idea. And then I've also got to go ahead and whip up a new batch of my Mosquito Dunks solution and try treating this system with a fresh batch, because perhaps it's as simple as that. Maybe I've just got a batch of stuff here that's kind of old. What I do is I keep adding water. Every time I use some of it, I add more water. But I do have one of those Mosquito Dunks sitting inside of an old sock that dangles within the fluid, kind of like a tea bag. But since the little biscuit is not visible, since it's sort of in the tea bag, I can never tell if it's still there, if it's still effective, if it's still providing, the BTI bacteria to the water that I keep adding, or has the stuff already long run out. I'm not sure. It might be as simple as just throwing a replacement chunk of BTI into a new little tea bag and trying again. I mean, we're definitely behind in terms of having had an opportunity now for quite some time to try to tackle this system. But if the BTI that I've been using for so long now has just been not even BTI, just almost straight water at this point, or perhaps not as effective as it could be, then it's been kind of misleading to think that I was adding BTI, but maybe I was just adding water. So either way, the flying insect saga here in the VermiBag Mini continues. Last time we didn't manage to shake out the contents of this gourd. This time I figured I would try to help this stuff out by poking my finger in there and actually scraping the contents out. But that's only one of many large old objects floating around within the system. Here we've got a pumpkin stem, which the worms always really enjoy hanging out on. I don't know if they're like burrowing. I do see a little, like one of the worms just kind of vanished into what appears to be a hole in the side of on the side of this thing. And here too, it almost seems like perhaps, oh yeah, look at that. I usually don't try to mess with this thing too much. I don't want to help it along. I'd really rather just watch it deteriorate without my help. But as I squeezed it gently, it did seem like it was giving. So it does seem like this stuff is softening up quite a bit. What do we have here? Citrus. I could tell right away from the smell. And even from the appearance of this stuff. Kind of that fibrous appearance. So it seems like we've got some leftovers from the last feeding. I didn't really pay too much attention to what we fed last time. I mean, I usually pull up the video from the previous check-in just to orient myself to where things stood the last time. And I think I might have reviewed the video, but for whatever reason, the meal from last time is not coming to me right now. Here's like another stem of a much smaller pumpkin. Well, who knows? Maybe the pumpkins were the same size and this one had a small stem and this one has a very big stem. Who knows? Chances are the big stem came from a big pumpkin and the small stem came from a small pumpkin. Here's like a chunk of another piece of gourd, or maybe this is actually a piece that broke off from this outer shell here. I think there was other gourds in here. Yeah, there were. But those were starting to go to pieces. We might bump into a few other chunks of gourd, like this right here is also gourd. And I've been helping this one along a little bit by chipping away at it. For a while we were always trying to see if we could shake out its contents, but that would never ever happen for whatever reason. It's jammed full of castings. So we're not going to worry too much about it. I feel like I've got to make a pretty good size hole to fit everything that I wanted to feed them today, because I've got a very large portion. I've got strawberry, I've got cantaloupe rinds, I got raspberry, I've got coffee. I got a nice assortment of things, and I've got a fairly large quantity of it too. This is another chunk of gourd over here. I have been thinking, every now and then I kind of brainstorm on where to take this system next, kind of, you know, keep things interesting, and checking in on these old chunks of gourd week after week after week. It's starting to get a little bit old. Sometimes I wonder if perhaps I can help this stuff along a little bit more by perhaps breaking stuff up. I mean, when we started this system 313 days ago, we did add, I think, I don't even remember now, perhaps 6 or 7 stems of pumpkin, and this was by far the largest of them all. And there was a bunch of other ones of varying sizes. And then even later we ran a time-lapse of another pumpkin, and the stem of that pumpkin ended up in here too. So this system has had quite a few pumpkin stems in it. Some of them even predating this system, coming with the worms from their old home. Other pumpkin stems being added to the system since it was running. But how long it's been in here, I don't know. But I think we've probably created a large enough hole into which we could plop today's yummy assortment of foods. So why don't we return some of these old objects down low so that all this delicious new stuff can get piled right on top of it. And some of it will fall into that hole in the gourd, and some of it will cover up that big pumpkin stem. And by putting all the yummy new foods right on top of the old leftovers, we'll hopefully we'll promote some activity down there. I got my prepared bedding over here. I thought maybe we would add a little handful to complement the feeding. And then I've got to decide, do I want to sprinkle this stuff out across the top, or do I want to sprinkle the leaves? I'm thinking the leaves might be the better way to go. You see, this stuff came out of the freezer quite some time ago. So it's been thawing down here for some time. Oh, here I see a little disc of ice. It was frozen in between these two chunks. Oh, here's another chunk of ice. So I guess this meal is also coming with a little bit of bonus moisture in the form of ice. So you could see just the cantaloupe rinds look like a pretty significant meal, but we've still got a handful of yummy strawberry, all frozen. That's a little chunk of watermelon, even a bonus chunk of watermelon. I think this raspberry might have been frozen and thawed and frozen and thawed, and hey, look at that, even a piece of pizza crust. All right, let's just get this stuff in here because this little plastic container, as you can see, is leaking. Well, I just dropped a little bit of the fluid on my white sneakers. There's even some more bonus fluid. Let's get that in there too. Now, I think before we cover up, maybe it would make good sense to cover up this feeding zone with perhaps even a little bit more bedding material. I hate the idea of any of these delicious fruits emitting a tempting odor, further compounding the issue with the flying insects wanting to stay. And, well, I guess I can put that, trap back in. As to whether it's working or not, I don't know. I have not seen any good results with it quite yet. I am kind of hoping that maybe if I were to whip up another batch of the BTI, then perhaps that would give me the good outcome that I've seen in the past. So I'm going to set this coffee filter aside. We'll rest it out on top as our feeding zone indicator at the end. But I think as a nice top coating, I'm going to spread some leaves out here. I'm wondering if this in itself could possibly become a good barrier between the outside environment and the stuff down below. Presumably it's the stuff that's down below that the flying insects are so interested in. If we have like just a somewhat dry top coating of leafy matter, then maybe there's just no longer anything of interest for the flying insects in here. So it seems like as good a thing to try as any. So let's put the feeding zone indicator in here, and then, like I said earlier, perhaps I'll come in here with some sort of a piece of top covering newspaper or cardboard or something, or who knows, maybe I'll just leave it as is. And if I do, then this thing will just rest out here on top, perhaps catching some flying insects. So far it doesn't seem like it's done much, but whatever. I guess we'll just keep our fingers crossed. Alright everyone, that's it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up. That's always very much appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. Alright everyone, have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.